Brittany Murphy's career trajectory was a quintessential Hollywood dream, a small-town girl with big ambitions who captivated audiences with her radiant smile, infectious energy, and undeniable talent. Born in Atlanta, Georgia, Brittany moved to Los Angeles as a teenager, chasing her dreams of stardom. She quickly rose to fame with her breakout role as Ty Frazier in the 1995 cult classic Clueless, where her portrayal of the quirky, lovable outsider won the hearts of millions. Her versatility as an actress was evident in later roles, from the gritty 8 Mile, where she starred alongside Eminem, to the psychological thriller Don't Say a Word. But Brittany wasn't just an actress, she was also a singer, with a voice that enchanted fans when she collaborated on the hit single Faster Kill Pussycat. By the time she reached her early 30s, Brittany had already amassed an impressive body of work. But behind the scenes, her once bright career seemed to dim. Rumors of professional struggles and personal turmoil began to overshadow her success. So when news broke on December 20th, 29, that Brittany Murphy had been found unresponsive in her Hollywood Hills mansion, it sent shockwaves through the industry and her fan base. At just 32 years old, she was gone, but this wasn't just a heartbreaking Hollywood tragedy. It was the opening chapter of a mystery that continues to haunt the public's imagination. On that fateful morning, Brittany's mother, Sharon Murphy, made a frantic call to 911. She had found her daughter collapsed on the bathroom floor. Sharon, who lived in the same house with Brittany, and her husband, Simon Monjack, described her as cold and unresponsive. Paramedics arrived at the Hollywood Hills mansion, a sprawling home Brittany had purchased from Britney Spears years earlier, but their efforts to revive her were unsuccessful. Brittany was rushed to Cedars Sinai Medical Center, where she was pronounced dead at just 32 years old. The official statement at the time cited cardiac arrest, but questions immediately arose. How could a seemingly healthy young woman suffer such a sudden and tragic end? The bathroom where Brittany was found became a focal point of speculation. It was reported to be filled with medications, including prescription drugs for Simon Monjack's health issues and over-the-counter remedies for Brittany, who had reportedly been suffering from flu-like symptoms in the days prior. Her death certificate listed the cause as deferred, fueling media frenzy and public speculation about what had truly happened. What made the scene even more unsettling was the eerily claustrophobic nature of the household. Brittany, her husband Simon, and her mother Sharon all lived under one roof, an arrangement some friends described as suffocating. Despite the tragic loss, the public couldn't shake the feeling that something was off. Whispers of foul play, neglect, and conspiracy began to circulate almost immediately, leaving the world to wonder. Was Brittany Murphy's death a preventable tragedy or something far more sinister? When the Los Angeles County Coroner's Office released its initial findings, they attributed Brittany Murphy's death to pneumonia, severe anemia, and a toxic mix of over-the-counter medications. The public was stunned by the unexpected diagnosis. Pneumonia, for someone so young and vibrant, the combination of factors painted a picture of a body overwhelmed by illness, but many felt the explanation left key questions unanswered. The multiple drug intoxication mentioned in the report wasn't tied to illicit substances. Instead, it involved common cold and flu medications, including acetaminophen, antihistamines, and decongestants medications that millions use daily. The coroner noted that these drugs, while not inherently dangerous on their own, could have contributed to her death by suppressing her respiratory system. What stood out most was the anemia. Brittany's blood was reportedly so iron deficient that her body couldn't effectively fight off the infection. But how had she reached such a fragile state without anyone intervening? And why wasn't her health being closely monitored? For Brittany's fans and loved ones, these findings only deepened the mystery. Those close to her, including her mother and husband, denied any signs that Brittany was gravely ill. Her death, they claimed, came as a complete shock. The explanation, though medically plausible, raised troubling questions. Had Brittany ignored worsening symptoms, or was there more to the story than met the eye? Brittany Murphy's life was a tale of highs and lows, played out under the unrelenting glare of Hollywood's spotlight. After her breakout performance as Ty in Clueless, she became one of the most sought-after young actresses of the late 1990s and early 2000s. Her role in 8 Mile solidified her as a versatile talent capable of stepping into both comedic and dramatic roles with ease. But as the years passed, the same industry that had celebrated her began to turn its back. Rumors swirled about Brittany's off-screen behavior. Stories surfaced about her being difficult to work with, though colleagues like Ashton Kutcher and Eminem spoke highly of her professionalism. Some tabloids painted her as unstable, citing her bubbly personality as evidence of something more troubling beneath the surface. Others speculated about her romantic relationships, including her brief engagement to talent manager Jeff Quatinetz and a high-profile breakup with actor Ashton Kutcher. By the mid-2000s, Brittany's career seemed to falter. Roles in critically panned films replaced the blockbusters of her earlier years. Gossip columns hinted at insecurities about her appearance, claiming she had undergone cosmetic procedures to maintain her youthful image. Brittany's weight loss and frail appearance in public only fueled speculation, with some accusing her of struggling with eating disorders or substance abuse allegations she consistently denied. Still, Brittany maintained an upbeat demeanor in interviews, laughing off the negativity and insisting she was focused on her craft. But for someone constantly battling rumors and rejection, was the pressure of staying relevant in a cutthroat industry slowly eroding her health? Or were there deeper forces at work behind her career's decline? Brittany's untimely death put her life under an even harsher microscope. Every decision, every rumor, and every unsubstantiated claim was dredged up for scrutiny. Was she a victim of Hollywood's unforgiving nature, or was there something more sinister lurking behind the curtain? As the investigation into her death continued, the world was left to wonder if Brittany's decline was purely professional or if it had life-altering consequences. Brittany Murphy's home life was anything but conventional. She shared her Hollywood Hills mansion with her husband, Simon Monjack, and her mother, Sharon Murphy, a living arrangement that many found unusual. Friends and colleagues whispered about the dynamics within the household, describing it as insular and at times unsettling. Simon Monjack, a British screenwriter with a dubious reputation, had married Brittany in a small, private ceremony in 2007. Their relationship was often scrutinized by the media, with some questioning why Brittany, a rising star, had chosen someone with so much baggage. Simon had a history of financial troubles, legal disputes, and accusations of fraud, casting a shadow over their union. Sharon Murphy's constant presence added another layer of complexity. While Brittany described her mother as her best friend and closest confidante, the dynamic raised eyebrows. Simon and Sharon appeared to work together to shield Brittany from outside influences, but their protective nature was seen by some as overbearing. Brittany's friends expressed concerns about Simon's influence. He reportedly controlled every aspect of her life, from her finances to her career decisions. Some claimed he discouraged her from seeking medical care when she needed it most. As Brittany's health declined, the question loomed: was her husband's behavior out of love, or was it something darker? Simon Monjack was no stranger to controversy, and his marriage to Brittany Murphy only deepened the scrutiny surrounding him. Before meeting Brittany, Simon had already built a reputation as a con artist in Hollywood. He was sued for fraud, accused of duping investors, and embroiled in a series of legal battles that tarnished his credibility. After Brittany's death, Simon's public behavior raised even more questions. In interviews, he painted himself as a grieving widower, blaming Hollywood and the relentless tabloid culture for Brittany's downfall. He vehemently denied allegations that their marriage was troubled, insisting that they had been deeply in love. But Simon's actions didn't always align with his words. In one interview, he described how he had planned to have children with Brittany and create a family together, a sentiment that struck many as odd given the circumstances of her death. He also lashed out at those who criticized him, portraying himself as a misunderstood man who had been unfairly vilified. For many, Simon's behavior after Brittany's death only fueled suspicions. Some wondered if he had isolated her from friends and family, creating an environment where she became entirely dependent on him. His controlling nature, coupled with his questionable past, led to speculation that he might have played a more direct role in Brittany's tragic demise. As the public tried to piece together the events leading up to Brittany's death, one thing became clear: Simon Monjack's presence in her life was as puzzling as it was polarizing. Was he a devoted husband caught in the crossfire of grief and scandal, or was he hiding something far more sinister? The truth remained shrouded in uncertainty, leaving the world to wonder just how deep Simon's shadow truly extended. The Hollywood Hills mansion Brittany Murphy called home was anything but ordinary. Once owned by pop star Britney Spears, the sprawling property boasted luxury and opulence, but to those who knew Britney, it seemed to carry a far darker energy. Friends who visited described the house as eerily cold and uninviting, its grandeur overshadowed by a strange, almost suffocating atmosphere. Despite its high ceilings and glittering views of Los Angeles, the house felt isolating, as though its walls held secrets they refused to share. Brittany reportedly confided in close friends that she wanted to leave the mansion. She spoke of an unsettling feeling, claiming the house felt cursed. This was no casual remark. Brittany had become increasingly adamant about moving, even making plans to sell the home and start fresh elsewhere. Adding to the mystique was the fact that Brittany rarely left the house in her final months. Once a social butterfly, she had become reclusive, spending her days in the mansion with Simon and her mother. Some wondered if the house itself symbolized the isolation and control that had come to define her life. But was the house truly cursed, or was it simply a reflection of the growing tensions within its walls? As investigators began piecing together the events leading to Brittany's death, the mansion became a symbol of the unanswered questions surrounding her tragic demise. The days leading up to Brittany Murphy's death paint a haunting picture of a woman battling illness, stress, and an ominous series of circumstances. Brittany had reportedly been sick for over a week, suffering from flu-like symptoms. She had been coughing, wheezing, and complaining of severe weakness. Her mother and husband both claimed she had been trying to recover using over-the-counter medications, but she seemed to grow worse with each passing day. Brittany wasn't the only one in the house who was ill. Simon Monjack was also reportedly unwell, which added another layer of complexity to the situation. Brittany, ever nurturing, had been caring for him despite her own declining health. Friends later revealed that they had urged Brittany to see a doctor, but Simon allegedly downplayed the severity of her symptoms and discouraged her from seeking medical help. On the night before her death, Brittany was described as looking pale and frail, her energy almost entirely depleted. Witnesses later claimed that her breathing had been labored, a clear sign that she was in distress. Yet no one called for medical assistance. This critical decision to forego professional medical care would later become a major focus of scrutiny. Had Brittany been seen by a doctor, could her death have been prevented? Or was her fate already sealed by a combination of neglect, illness, and the isolating dynamics within her home? The timeline of Brittany's final days offers only fragments of an unsettling puzzle, leaving behind more questions than answers. Was her death the tragic result of untreated illness, or did deeper forces conspire to silence a Hollywood star on the verge of escape? In a chilling twist that deepened the mystery, Simon Monjack, Brittany Murphy's husband, was found dead just 5 months after her passing. The scene was strikingly familiar. Simon was discovered in the same Hollywood Hills mansion, his lifeless body eerily echoing Brittany's tragic end. The official cause of death: pneumonia and severe anemia, the exact conditions that had allegedly claimed Brittany's life. The similarities between their deaths were impossible to ignore, and they sent shockwaves through both the public and the investigative community. How could two people living under the same roof succumb to the same unusual combination of illnesses within such a short period? The discovery prompted immediate speculation. Was it a freak coincidence, or did it point to something far more sinister? Friends and fans questioned whether Simon's death was connected to Brittany's. Some floated the possibility of foul play, while others wondered if an environmental factor in the house itself could be the silent killer. Even more unsettling was Simon's erratic behavior in the months leading up to his death. He had given a series of bizarre interviews, made inflammatory accusations against Hollywood, and seemed to spiral into paranoia and grief. Yet, despite the red flags, no one could have predicted this second tragedy. Simon's death transformed Brittany's case into something far more complex. It was no longer just a story of one young star's untimely passing. It was the beginning of a dual mystery that would confound investigators and haunt the public for years to come. Following Simon Monjack's death, Brittany's mother, Sharon Murphy, introduced a startling theory. Toxic mold in the house might have been the true cause of both deaths. Sharon claimed that the mansion, purchased from Britney Spears years earlier, was riddled with hidden dangers. She speculated that prolonged exposure to mold spores could have caused the respiratory illnesses that led to the fatal outcomes. The theory quickly gained traction in the media, as toxic mold was known to cause serious health problems in some cases. Symptoms such as difficulty breathing, fatigue, and weakened immune systems aligned with what both Brittany and Simon had reportedly experienced. However, experts were divided. While some environmental specialists acknowledged that severe mold exposure could lead to pneumonia-like symptoms, others dismissed the idea as improbable. Toxic mold deaths are rare, and for two individuals to succumb in such a short span of time seemed statistically unlikely. Adding to the skepticism was the lack of immediate testing for environmental hazards following Brittany's death. By the time the mold theory surfaced, much of the critical evidence within the house had likely been compromised or destroyed. Despite the controversy, Sharon stuck to her claim, even filing a lawsuit against the builders of the home. The case was eventually dismissed, but the theory left an indelible mark on the narrative surrounding Brittany and Simon's deaths. Was toxic mold the hidden killer in the walls of the Hollywood Hills mansion? Or was it a convenient scapegoat for a mystery that defied simple explanations? The toxic mold allegations added yet another layer of intrigue to a case already brimming with unanswered questions, keeping the public and investigators alike grasping for the elusive truth. The autopsy report on Brittany Murphy revealed a startling combination of factors. Along with pneumonia and severe anemia, toxicology tests identified a mix of over-the-counter cold remedies, prescription painkillers, and other medications in her system. None of the drugs were illicit, but the sheer variety raised red flags about whether they had been taken responsibly or prescribed appropriately. Among the medications were acetaminophen, hydrocodone, and various antihistamines. These are commonly used for pain relief and cold symptoms, but when combined, they can have dangerous effects. The report noted that the medications may have suppressed her respiratory system, exacerbating the pneumonia that ultimately led to her death. What puzzled investigators was why a young woman in her early 30s, reportedly in otherwise good health, would have deteriorated so rapidly without medical intervention. The role of anemia in her death also sparked questions. Her iron levels were so dangerously low that her body's ability to fight infection was severely compromised. Could her condition have been overlooked or worse, ignored? Critics argued that the combination of medications suggested a failure in medical oversight. Had Brittany been misdiagnosed or improperly medicated, and who was responsible for ensuring her health was managed properly? The autopsy raised more questions than it answered, leaving a cloud of suspicion over the circumstances of her death. In the months and years after Brittany Murphy's death, an unsettling narrative began to emerge about Simon Monjack's role in her life. Friends and colleagues painted a troubling picture of a man who exerted near total control over the actress. Simon reportedly managed every aspect of Brittany's life, from her career decisions to her finances. He discouraged her from maintaining close friendships, claiming he was protecting her from exploitation. This isolation left Brittany heavily dependent on him and her mother, Sharon, for emotional support. One of the most troubling allegations was that Simon supplied Brittany with medications. While the drugs found in her system were legal, some questioned whether Simon had encouraged her to use them excessively. Brittany's erratic public appearances in the years leading up to her death led to speculation about her well-being, with some wondering if she was being manipulated into taking substances she didn't need. Simon's influence wasn't limited to Brittany's health. He also controlled her finances, often speaking for her in business dealings. Friends described him as overbearing and defensive, shutting down anyone who questioned his decisions. To the outside world, Simon insisted he was devoted to Brittany, but those closest to her feared his behavior bordered on emotional manipulation. Was he acting out of love, or were his motives more self-serving? And how much of a role did his control play in the tragic outcome of her story? As the investigation continued, Simon's actions came under increasing scrutiny, turning him from a grieving widower into one of the most controversial figures in Brittany Murphy's life. The sudden and enigmatic death of Brittany Murphy gave rise to a slew of conspiracy theories, many of which pointed to the darker underbelly of Hollywood. In the aftermath of her passing, some speculated that Brittany had been silenced for speaking out against corruption within the entertainment industry. These theories claimed she was privy to information that made her a threat to powerful figures. One rumor suggested that Brittany had learned about illegal practices tied to prominent Hollywood elites and had planned to expose them. Though no concrete evidence ever supported these claims, the idea resonated with fans who believed Brittany was a victim of an unforgiving system. Other theories cast suspicion closer to home. Some questioned whether Simon Monjack had a hand in her death, either through negligence or intentional actions. His shady past and controlling nature made him an easy target for speculation. Additionally, Simon's death only months later, under eerily similar circumstances, added fuel to these claims. Even Brittany's mother, Sharon Murphy, became a subject of conspiracy theories. Some found her behavior after Brittany's death peculiar, particularly her public defense of Simon. Her constant presence in the household and her role in Brittany's life led to whispers of a darker, hidden connection. Though these theories remain unproven, they highlight the public's refusal to accept Brittany's death as a simple tragedy. Whether a victim of Hollywood's relentless pressures, foul play, or something more insidious, Brittany's case became a symbol of the mystery and paranoia that often surrounds celebrity deaths. Sharon Murphy, Brittany's mother, was initially seen as a grieving parent devastated by the loss of her only daughter. But as time passed, her actions and statements began to draw suspicion. Sharon lived in the Hollywood Hills mansion with Brittany and Simon, a dynamic that some found uncomfortably close. After Brittany's death, Sharon appeared in multiple media interviews, often alongside Simon Monjack. She defended Simon fiercely, dismissing accusations of his controlling behavior and insisting that he and Brittany had shared a loving relationship. This public alliance with Simon, even as scrutiny mounted against him, raised eyebrows. Adding to the intrigue was Sharon's role in the toxic mold theory. She was the first to suggest that mold in the home could have contributed to Brittany and Simon's deaths, even pursuing legal action against the builders. However, some saw this as a deflection, a way to shift focus away from potential negligence within the household. The most troubling allegations came from those who claimed Sharon and Simon's relationship was unusually close. Some even speculated that their bond may have crossed boundaries, though no concrete evidence ever supported this. Sharon's proximity to both deaths, coupled with her behavior afterward, made her a polarizing figure in the ongoing mystery. Was she simply a mother overwhelmed by grief, clinging to the memory of her daughter? Or did she know more about the circumstances surrounding Brittany and Simon's deaths than she let on? As with so many elements of Brittany Murphy's case, Sharon's role remains shrouded in ambiguity, leaving investigators and the public to question her true motivations. From the beginning, critics pointed to glaring holes in the official investigation into Brittany Murphy's death. While the Los Angeles County Coroner's Office provided a cause of death: pneumonia, anemia, and drug intoxication, many questioned whether the LAPD had done enough to rule out other possibilities. One of the most significant criticisms was the lack of environmental testing in the Hollywood Hills mansion. The house was not examined for toxic substances such as mold, carbon monoxide, or other environmental hazards immediately after Brittany's death. It wasn't until months later, after Simon Monjack's passing, that toxic mold was even considered as a possible factor. By then, any physical evidence that might have supported or debunked the theory could have been compromised. Another contentious issue was the handling of Brittany's medications. The autopsy report listed a combination of legal substances, but questions lingered. Were all the medications properly prescribed? And who had provided them? Critics argued that the investigation failed to delve deeply into the source of the drugs or whether they were taken under medical supervision. Additionally, the lab's decision not to classify Brittany's death as suspicious from the outset raised eyebrows. Without a thorough examination of potential foul play, key leads may have been overlooked. Did the police dismiss the possibility of external factors too quickly, or was there pressure to close the case without drawing more attention to the tragic circumstances? The gaps in the investigation left a trail of unanswered questions, fueling speculation and distrust among Brittany's fans and the public. Was her death simply a tragic oversight, or did the lack of a comprehensive inquiry allow vital clues to slip through the cracks? As news of Brittany Murphy's death broke, the media descended into a storm of speculation and sensationalism. Tabloids crafted a narrative that painted her as a troubled starlet undone by fame, addiction, and personal turmoil. Her once cherished image as a quirky, talented actress gave way to headlines that turned her into a cautionary tale. Rumors of drug abuse, eating disorders, and mental health struggles dominated the conversation. The press dissected every aspect of Brittany's life, from her marriage to Simon Monjack to her alleged professional difficulties. Even her appearance became fodder for public critique, with outlets analyzing her weight loss and fragile demeanor in her final months. This narrative, while salacious, often overshadowed the deeper truths about Brittany's death. The focus on her alleged personal struggles diverted attention from critical questions about her health, the role of those closest to her, and the potential environmental factors in her home. Simon Monjack became a prominent figure in the media circus, giving interviews that further fueled speculation. While he portrayed himself as a grieving husband, many saw his public appearances as self-serving and manipulative. His erratic behavior only added to the tabloids' relentless coverage. The media frenzy surrounding Brittany's death highlighted a troubling trend in how celebrity tragedies are handled. Instead of seeking the truth, much of the coverage fixated on creating a scandal, often at the expense of the person at the center of the story. But was this portrayal accurate? Or did the media's hunger for a sensational story obscure the more nuanced and possibly sinister realities of Brittany Murphy's untimely death? As the narrative spiraled out of control, the line between fact and fiction blurred, leaving the public to sift through the chaos for the truth. In the wake of Simon Monjack's death and Sharon Murphy's claims, the theory that toxic mold had caused both fatalities gained significant attention. Brittany's father, Angelo Bertolotti, who had been estranged from the actress for much of her life, decided to fund an independent investigation to uncover the truth. He was unconvinced by the official reports and believed environmental factors or even foul play could have been involved. The private investigation involved environmental testing of the Hollywood Hills mansion. While some mold was detected, experts found no conclusive evidence linking it to the deaths. Toxic mold is known to cause respiratory issues and weaken the immune system, but for it to lead to pneumonia and severe anemia in 2 individuals within a span of 5 months was considered highly unlikely by most specialists. Despite the lack of definitive proof, the toxic mold theory had a lasting impact. It reignited public conversations about the dangers of environmental toxins, particularly in older homes. Mold-related lawsuits surged, and homeowners became more vigilant about the potential health risks lurking in their properties. Angelo Bertolotti, however, remained unconvinced by the findings. He alleged that the mold theory was a distraction from more sinister causes and continued to advocate for further investigation. His suspicions ensured that the toxic mold narrative, while largely debunked, remained a part of the ongoing mystery surrounding Brittany Murphy's death. More than a decade after her passing, Brittany Murphy's star continues to shine in the hearts of her fans. Her roles in films like Clueless, 8 Mile, and Sin City remain iconic, a testament to her range and talent as an actress. Fans remember her not only for her on-screen charisma, but also for the warmth and humor she brought to every project. In the years following her death, documentaries and retrospectives have sought to honor her life, while also exploring the unanswered questions surrounding her untimely demise. Films like What Happened, Brittany Murphy delve into the circumstances of her death, bringing renewed attention to the case and sparking fresh debates about the role of those closest to her, as well as the pressures of Hollywood. Brittany's fans have also taken it upon themselves to preserve her memory, creating online tributes and celebrating her most memorable performances. Her portrayal of Ty Frazier in Clueless remains a cultural touchstone, with her line, "You're a virgin who can't drive," still quoted by fans worldwide. Yet, her legacy is inevitably intertwined with the mystery of her death. The unanswered questions and lingering suspicions cast a shadow over her story, turning her into a symbol of Hollywood's darker side. Was Brittany a victim of neglect, manipulation, or simply tragic circumstance? While her life was tragically cut short, her legacy endures, a reminder of both the beauty and fragility of life under the spotlight. Brittany Murphy's death left behind a labyrinth of questions that investigators and fans alike have struggled to answer. The most glaring of these revolves around how her health was allowed to deteriorate so drastically without anyone stepping in to help. Reports indicated that she had been visibly unwell for days, yet no one sought medical intervention until it was too late. Could a simple visit to the hospital have saved her life, or was her fate already sealed by deeper, hidden factors? Simon Monjack's role in her life remains a source of intense scrutiny. Was his control over Brittany purely protective, as he often claimed, or was there something more sinister at play? Friends and colleagues described a man who discouraged her from seeking medical attention and isolated her from those who cared about her. Could his influence have contributed to her decline, either through neglect or willful manipulation? The eerie similarities between Brittany's death and Simon's passing just 5 months later further compound the mystery. How could two people die of pneumonia and severe anemia in the same home under nearly identical circumstances? Was it an environmental factor, a shared neglect of health, or something far more sinister? Even the role of Brittany's mother, Sharon Murphy, has not escaped scrutiny. As the third member of the household, Sharon's close relationship with both Brittany and Simon has been viewed through a lens of suspicion. Did she unknowingly contribute to the toxic dynamic in the home, or was she another victim of circumstances beyond her control? These lingering questions ensure that Brittany Murphy's case remains one of Hollywood's most enduring mysteries. With every new theory or revelation, the truth seems to slip further out of reach, leaving behind a haunting legacy of what might have been. As we reach the end of this investigation, one thing is clear. Brittany Murphy's death is a puzzle with pieces that refuse to fit together. Was her demise a tragic accident, the result of a perfect storm of illness, neglect, and over-the-counter medications? Or were there darker forces at work, forces tied to the toxic dynamics of her household, the relentless pressures of Hollywood, or perhaps even something more sinister? Theories about her death abound. Some point to Simon Monjack's influence, suggesting that his control over Brittany's life, health, and finances created a dangerous environment. Others fixate on environmental factors like the toxic mold theory as a plausible explanation for the eerily similar deaths of Brittany and Simon. But even with these theories, the case remains frustratingly incomplete. The investigation left critical questions unanswered, from the lack of immediate environmental testing to the origins of the medications in Brittany's system. Each piece of evidence raises further doubts, ensuring the mystery continues to loom large in the public imagination. Perhaps the answers lie buried in the Hollywood Hills mansion where Brittany and Simon spent their final days, or perhaps they are locked away in the memories of those who were closest to her. Whatever the truth, Brittany's story is a somber reminder of the fragility of life and the shadows that often lurk behind the glitz and glamour of fame. As we close this case, we invite you to reflect on the unanswered questions and form your own theories. Was Brittany's death preventable, or was it the culmination of forces beyond anyone's control? The answers may remain elusive, but Brittany Murphy's legacy, a blend of brilliance, beauty, and mystery, will endure forever.